And wherever you live or visit in Mississippi, you are guaranteed to find an antique shop or maybe even a flea market nearby with trinkets and treasures just waiting to be found. Southerners really do love a good flea market. And we've got joining us in the studio today, Tony and Heather Palmer, who know that all too well. They are the owners of Relics Antique Marketplace of Tupelo. Welcome, you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it's so good to have you here, and I absolutely love your story, and it's one of up and downs. You have just celebrated 4 years on New Year's Day, so I don't know if it's happy birthday, happy anniversary. We always wonder that, too, when we turn another year older here on good things, but 4 is a big number whenever you're thinking about a small business success, but it hasn't been smooth sailing. So I want to actually start with just going back about 2 years ago when you celebrated your second anniversary on January 1st, 2020. Before March hit, what was world looking like in the Relics Antique, markets, place world? For you guys.
Well, we had just opened a second store. Things were going great, very optimistic. Had no idea our world was about to change for sure.
Exactly. We'd been really busy, been really blessed with a good support from the community, and wham, COVID
hit. And so that would have been March of 2020. And so from a small business perspective, and let's at least sort of sketch out what your small business looked like. At that time, you had 2 locations. So about how many square foot are we talking about in terms of property did you guys sort of manage and run?
So the Relics is, we had 16,000 square feet at Relics. We had had a waiting list of vendors wanting a space. So we decided to do that second store, and it had 8,000 square feet, and we immediately filled it up, and it was great. The reality hit that we had no idea what the economy was going to do, how long we were going to be closed. So we just had some really tough decisions. We didn't want, the 2 stores to pull both of them under. So it's like having to choose between your children.
Kind of, yeah.
We all have our favorite. We would never say it out loud, but push comes to shove. Little Johnny don't ever do the dishes, so
He's got to go.
He's got to go. But no, I can't imagine the pain that you had to choose. So you did choose.
We did, and Relics was our original.
We felt more established already in the name, and it was just tough. We had vendors. It's you want to give yourself a good 6 months in any new business anyway to see where it's going. So we had just sort of rounded our first Christmas there. Things were rolling good at Relics, and all those great vendors that had spent all that time and money and effort to come in and set up, and then it's like they pulled the rug out from under us, It just
and not only
tough.
you guys, but also sort of for your vendors. I read where, Tony, you guys at one point were actually taking apart your artifacts, sort of taking things down. You just felt like everything, was coming to a close, which I know so many small businesses listening to Good Things or just within our communities went through that same thing. But you guys kind of did have a light at the end of the tunnel. Was it kind of like a click that things sort of came back together, or was it a slow uphill drag to get Relics back to where it is now?
Once the governor allowed businesses to reopen, it's like someone flipped a switch in a very positive way.
Absolutely.
I think what we do is we offer retail therapy for people. It's a chance to escape your problems and everything that's going on in the world. So I think that worked to our advantage.
Absolutely. It's a psychological thing. People buy things to make themselves feel better. So once people could actually emerge from their homes and feel comfortable, because we were still able to provide a safe environment with a store that large, 2 levels, there's room to spread out. So people felt comfortable. I don't know how many times I heard, this is the first place I came. Like, I was so glad to get out of my house.
What did that feel like?
It's amazing. It's amazing.
To know that, and then to watch and see that maybe your dream still had a hope, one customer at a time, 1 week at a time. And so I guess we're still technically not out of the pandemic, still in it. In 2 years almost, almost later. But you guys are rocking and rolling. Are you back to full capacity where you were January 1st of 2020?
We're beyond that. We just had our best year that we've ever had. And it is so humbling, that the community did that. We didn't do that. The community rallied around us and many other small businesses in Tupelo.
Which is interesting because it's not like you guys sell, things that are, well, I won't say necessary. We all need something, but it's not like your essential items. It's not like a grocery store. It's not even like clothing or getting ready back for school. You guys are antiques and resale sort of shop. What do you think about that really connects with people in terms of, one, an escape out of their hidey hole from having to stay, quarantined or locked up, but then also just an opportunity to, explore. What connection do you think people have with the things in your stores?
I think, first of all, we deal with nostalgia. So even if you walk through there and you don't buy anything, it's like a trip down memory lane. Oh, my grandma had that or my mom had that. And then you've got the folks that are like, wow, we still have that. Look what our stuff's worth, It's just, like you said, an escape from all the craziness that's going on. And I've just pleasantly surprised with our community being very concerned about shopping local, keeping things small, because it is hard. This Christmas was hard for people to order things and get things. And they knew, oh, hey, we can go into Relics. We'll find something even more unique, maybe even more personal.
So now you guys have how many vendors?
Gosh, we have
121?
126 booths. A little over 100 vendors, because we do have people with multiple spaces.
So would that be fair to say that you guys are a small business who also supports 126
Absolutely.
Other small businesses?
Yep.
So really, when you want to shop local, this is
it's the best way to do it.
This is the best way, sort of, to do it in that respect. Okay, so when we think about the traditional flea market, is that how you guys are set up, where it is sort of you walk in, you have the different booths, so it's not like you're coming just to shop? You're shopping at Relics, but you could buy one thing from one store, another thing from another store. So it's not like you come to one area to check out.
That's exactly right. You're going to see in one booth some handmade items. You'll see in another booth some vintage clothing. There's no telling what you're going to come across at Relics. And then, when you're finished, you just come up to the counter and we keep track of everything for all the vendors.
Okay. So that makes it a little bit easier for that. So would your 126 vendors, would they have another outlet to sort of promote their small business or have a storefront without Relics?
A lot of them still participate online. They'll do a Facebook shop or Instagram. They're really great about tagging us or letting their customers know, oh, this is where you can come pick it up, and sharing our posts as well. That's really helpful.
But I know it's an opportunity for them to have their little bit of slice of a storefront, which is so hard to sort of get. And then you get the opportunity to have all the different things when you come in and shop. Do you remember the very first vendor you guys had? I know you haven't always been in the location that you're at, because I know there's a little bit of history to that we'll get to. But do you remember the first vendor that kind of bought into the Relics vision?
I do. We were up there. We put a banner up that says "Coming soon." Vendor space available, and we were up there polying the floor. And we were wanting to have like a really nice shine. The building had been neglected for many years, so we had somebody just saw us up there working one night, and they came in and they just were enamored with the place, much like we were. Yep. And he actually rented the corner back booth. And he actually works with us as well today. Not at the time, but it evolved, and so he's an employee, and we get to work together too.
What did he sell?
He sells old advertising signs and cool old vintage toys and just a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. And that's what you find at flea markets and antique shops. That's why you love going into them no matter where you go, because you're not going to find the same thing in this, in every antique shop. Well, our question today over on the Good Things Facebook group is just asking everyone listening to Good Things, what is your favorite, I hate to use best or a flea market find, because I know that really gets people stumped when you have to think about your best. But what's a flea market find that maybe you have found, or maybe a flea market flip that you or your family has done? We would love to know that. 601-879-4395. You can text that in to the C Spire text line. I know you guys have got to have a bazillion stories around the best flea market finds or flips, but we've got more with Tony and Heather with Relics Antique Marketplace of Tupelo coming up next. Or you can watch Good Things on your computer or your mobile device. You can watch it on your Roku or Amazon Fire TV devices or even YouTube. And if you have C Spire TV, you can get SuperTalk TV on Channel 70 right next to the Weather Channel. But if you're tuned in today, you'll see I'm not alone. I still have Tony and Heather Palmer. They are the owners of Relics Antique Marketplace of Tupelo, and they are celebrating 4 years strong, even through the pandemic and on. Such a success story for a small business. And you guys have a pretty cool building there in Tupelo that I think many will recognize but maybe not realize has been repurposed. So where is your business located?
It's at 248 South Green Street in Tupelo, Mississippi, just a couple of blocks off of the downtown area. It originally was the Tupelo Garment Company, and our fun little claim to fame is that Gladys Presley actually worked in our building.
That's pretty cool. It's a beautiful building, and you guys had the opportunity to take it over. But what kind of shape was it in? Now, do you own the building or are you renting the building?
We rent the building.
You rent the building,
Yes.
but it wasn't. It was a shell, right, Tony?
Right.
When y'all first got it.
Absolutely was. Yes, kids were skateboarding through, spray painting things on the walls. Probably 5 years worth of dust everywhere. So it was very abstract when we took the project on, to say the least.
But could you see it? Could you see the vision?
Yes. And one thing we wanted to do, we didn't want to have a cookie cutter, mall. We wanted our vendors to kind of make their space their own. So we define the perimeters, but we let them put their own walls up and do their own things. And some of them get really creative and do like a little storefront. But we wanted it to be different. And our one thing that we decided was going to be our I guess our business model is simple. We were going to treat everybody that walked in the door like friends or family. And that's all we've done.
Customer service 101.
Yep, absolutely.
It works every time.
It does.
Although if you're not very nice to your friends or your family,
Yeah.
it probably, but you probably don't have many that hang around. So that's probably also would speak to the way that you would run a business. Okay, so this really came out of a passion for you guys. I mean, let's go back now to 4 years ago, and it was just the two of you on weekends going and picking or doing flea market-y type things. What was sort of y'all's pastime with antiques or flea markets long before you had a thriving business?
It actually might even go back a little further than that, because this is something I enjoyed doing as a passion back home with my friends and family. When I moved to Tupelo, Tony just was like, "What do you like to do?" And I said, "Flea markets." And I was just surprised that there were not very many. There were so few in our area. So the journey started, first of all, with wanting to find a space somewhere, but we ended up on a waiting list everywhere we went. So it was several months down the way, and we ended up at a little mall, not a little mall, a nice mall in Corinth, but that's about an hour from us, so it wasn't convenient. It's just like one thing led to another. We started looking for a small space. The next thing you know, a dear friend of ours who actually owns the building said, "Hey, I have a small space I want you to look at." And unfortunately, it ended up being zoned residential. It wasn't a commercial space that we could actually use. And he just mentioned, "Hey, what about this big old building I got over here?" And
Then the rest is sort of history.
Yeah.
So when you guys had your own, when you were just a vendor, not just a vendor, but now you're a vendor and you're sort of the store owner. What was kind of your guys' niche? What were y'all selling or offering?
Well, Heather's favorite's mid-century modern.
I love mid-century.
She loves that. And I love like man cave stuff. Advertising, gas, oil, tobacco, beer advertising. I love that stuff. So we both have our own booths at Relics.
So how does this work? Do you guys then go out and pick? I mean, is it just like off the show where you go, maybe not as flashy or fancy as maybe American Pickers, but again, that's my limited knowledge as to what you see on TV, which is terrible for, what's probably truth. But do you guys go and find things and buy them from people or other stores and then either spruce them up a little bit or just turn around and offer them? I mean, is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, for the most part.
And we used to burn the roads up. Now having a storefront, we have a lot of people come into the store. And hey, unfortunately my grandmother passed away. We need to clean the house out. We have people email us pictures of items items for sale. So now it's awesome because it comes to us. We don't have to get out as much. But if we're in any town, just like today, we were here in Jackson, going in some antique shops. And we love supporting other people, just like we, need that support.
I never thought of it that way, where antiquers go and look at the different antique shops, and then you may never know how many times that thing that you ended up getting out of an antique shop has sort of been picked or moved or sort of around. But that's cool, though. That's kind of part of the neat story or the history sort of behind it. What do you think it is, you guys, that draws people sort of to? Is it just the fact that you never know what you're going to get that's kind of part of the lure to it? I mean, do people come in that are specific collectors? Is it, because I feel like we all have it in us that you take your time in a flea market. I don't know what it is about it, but it sucks you in.
Oh yeah, there are people that come in looking for very specific things to add to their collections, or maybe they had pieces and something got broke. So that's always tough. But it all boils down to the fun of the hunt. They're all waiting. They're like, I could just order this online and pay however much, but it's so much more fun to go shop for it.
And then I guess, too, with your vendors, then they're going to have the story behind maybe how they found it, and you just sort of have that connection sort of with it. And it's like you never know what you're going to find. Okay, so I set the question, which you guys can still respond to on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. I want to know something you found at a flea market or an antique shop that got you excited. So what are some of the things that you guys have come across? And it doesn't have to be your favorite, but just, that you were like, oh, wow, that's cool. Yeah.
So I think we've had a couple moments. We've had like an item that was worth way more than anyone ever dreamed it would be. We had a piece of art that a lady came in, and it was maybe $45. It's been 3 years ago, but she said, this is a print of my favorite artist. And so she bought it. She was thrilled, very happy. She ended up taking it to an art curator in Columbus, I think it was, and when they took the back off of it, it was an original signed by that artist. And they assigned a value of like $10,000 for it. So value-wise, that was incredible, that was in our store, undiscovered, forgotten about, if you will. And it's like we had a little piece of bringing that piece back to life.
Do you know if she kept it or she sold it?
Lost contact with her. But I imagine with her being a tremendous fan, she probably kept it. There's no way she sold that.
There's no way.
No way. And then Heather's got some great stories of just sentimental things that's happened too.
Yeah, the one that I recall the clearest, and again, it wasn't the money about it at all, but a lady had come in. She seemed a little upset when she left, and we, were just like, is everything okay? And she said, I think you have a picture of my father upstairs who died during the war, and I never met him. And I was like, oh my goodness. So she left, and in the meantime, I'm contacting the vendor. What do you know about this? Do you know? No, we just picked it up at a sale somewhere, so they didn't have any background information. And this lady came back, and she surely had a photo, and it's the exact photo that was in this army picture. And it was just touching that this is a picture of her father that she found in our antique store, and we were able to just give it to her.
That makes the little hairs on the back of your neck kind of stand up, and you're like, oh, Daddy's really watching when you walk in and sort of find. But, I mean, those are the kind of stories you can't really get from anywhere else. Mike from Corinth says, I collect fans, looking for brass blade fans, and he sent some photos of fans he has found at different flea markets or antique places. So you may have some fans in there for Mike and Carmen, since you're only about an hour away.
They sell really well for us, so.
That's cool. I mean, Mike, are you able to fix them up if they don't run or work, or do you just like collecting them for the sake of collecting them? I'd be interested to hear. I'm always interested why people are lured to things that don't work. I mean, you have to have, that sounds terrible. Why would you want something that's broken? But I mean, if you're handy and you're able to do it, or maybe it's just sort of the interest within the item of itself. Okay, Mike, now last question for you. I want to know your oldest brass blade fan that you have. Now, I'm very interested in Mike's collection of old fans. What's the oldest thing that maybe you guys have either sold through Relics or just sort of come across yourself?
We do have a religious book a guy just brought in yesterday that's from 1870, and it is in remarkable condition. But as far as an item sold, gosh, I couldn't.
So many things. I mean, even primitives so far back.
Yeah.
Joe in Meridian says you're stepping back in time, so take your time looking at all the things. I totally agree with that. We're going to take our time and have a little bit more time with Tony and Heather of Relics in Tupelo coming up next. And there's a ton of content on SuperTalk Mississippi's YouTube channel, so just search SuperTalk Mississippi on YouTube or go to supertalk.fm/YouTube. Why is YouTube such a hard word to say?
The YouTubes.
The YouTubes. And then subscribe. It's free. And then you can get the latest scoop on what's happening in Mississippi news, politics, sports, and, of course, the good things. And if you've missed any of Tony and Heather Palmer's story today here on Good Things, you can find it later on YouTube, or you can get it in podcast form wherever you listen to podcasts. You can subscribe to Good Things there. But they are the owners of Relics Antique Marketplace of Tupelo. You guys are in the cool building off of, give us your street address again, because folks are asking online.
248 South Green Street,
and
downtown
you also
Tupelo.
have a website as well, I think. Do you have a website? Or is it not up?
Well, there's a link off our Facebook page.
Yes.
And I couldn't tell you.
I was like, well, I was there earlier.
I think it's relicsmarketplace.com, but
Pretty sure.
Yes, that is it. And if not,
I'm
was
all
like,
about links.
well, you guys have got some really cool apparel and things there, which I saw your shirts, which is the Sanford and Sons were the original pickers. And I thought, what a cute thing. And it is one person's trash is another man's treasure. And this isn't dumpster diving, but this is a little bit more strategic planning with your finds. We did get some messages in, so I want to make sure we get those to you guys. Someone asked, where would they take prints that are numbered that they got from their dad's house after he passed on? They looked on the internet, but they were pretty expensive, and they just need some direction on what to do with it. So what would you tell them?
We have a friend that's a licensed appraiser that has an antique mall in Tupelo called Old South Antiques. So I would have them call Randy at Old South Antiques, and he could help them out with that.
There you go. And then James from Meridian says people should take their time, move slow. You enjoy our show. We appreciate that, James, so much, and for you listening. And yes, I think that's sort of the beauty. You can't rush yourself through an antique shop or flea market to do it right. It takes you back in time. Your mind starts to wander and sort of create your own stories around the things that you find. And I think that's part of the entire experience. I appreciate you guys say we don't care whether you leave with something or not. Just kind of come and take your mind off of whatever is going on. And we also got word back from Mike in Corinth, and his oldest brass blade fan was 1913 to 1914. You said you guys have some vendors there at Relics that are also flippers. You aren't flippers yourself, but you have some vendors who do that. What's some cool repurposed things you guys have there for sale?
Gosh, we have one vendor that does great and magical things with old audio equipment, old stereos. Gosh, he makes lights out of things.
We've got a vendor that makes jewelry out of guitar strings.
Who was a guest on Good Things last
awesome.
week,
Yeah.
Miss Wendy.
Yep.
Shout out to her. She
Yep.
String Things Designs, which is so cool how it all came full circle in that respect. You mentioned someone turning something out of old lights.
Yes, Ted's one of my favorites there. He makes some of the most incredible light fixtures out of antique pieces, that's been forgotten. And I think for both Heather and I, we've talked 100 times, the thing that we enjoy the most is we can take an item that has been forgotten, it's been kind of tossed aside, and we help give it a new home, give it a new life, and kind of resurrect that item, and we get a great deal of satisfaction from that.
And I think the cool part with antiques is they're not making more of them, right? And so when you go into someone's home, now we all have the family member whose house is head to toe in like really pristine antiques, and that's a completely different kind of sort of feel with furniture and all that. You're terrified to put anything on them or touch them. Growing up, we had Hard Rock Maple, which was antique, and my great aunt would shoo at you if you tried to put your glass down or pretty much touch it. Yeah. And I mean, I'm kind of scarred as a kid, but that is some of that. But the other things are just the different sort of trinkets or things at that time that people would decorate or pass down. But now you can find in these unique shops. And it's not just us regular everyday people who like antiques. Everybody does. So I imagine you guys have had some interesting folks come through Relics door. Who are some that have kind of left you like oh, look who showed up?
Paul Thorne's one of my favorites. He's such a down-to-earth, laid-back guy, and he's a brilliant artist. A lot of people know him for his music, but he's just an amazing artist. So he likes to come through and find small items, that he can use in that artistic work. So he's probably one of my favorites because he's just such a nice guy, too.
And notably, we had Billy Corgan stop in our store from the Smashing Pumpkins, so that was very interesting. So
2 cool artists from very different genres.
Exactly.
But everybody loves a good find. Okay, Rhino, you've been quiet today on Good Things, but you are from Tupelo, but you also just posted on the Good Things Facebook group about a cool flea market find or flip that you had. What's that?
Oh, yeah. Growing up, my younger brother and I played on an old school Nintendo, an NES, the original one that you put it in and then pushed it down and closed the little door on it. And if it didn't work, you took it out and blew on it and then put it back in, that kind of stuff. And then when we graduated from that, we got a Sega Genesis. We didn't get the Super Nintendo that was the next step for the NES. And growing up, the only way we could play on a Super Nintendo was to go over to friends' houses for like a sleepover to hang out in the afternoon after school. So just never had a Super Nintendo, never experienced some of the games that were only available on Super Nintendo until I became an adult and went to a flea market and I'm walking by and there's this Super Nintendo in really good condition for $40. And I go, well, I have $40. I could play that for a couple hours and it'd be well worth it. And I still have it. It was one of the first things I packed up.
Pretty cool.
That's awesome.
That is awesome, which now you could probably turn around and sell and get it,
make money.
And make money off of it. It's so interesting, those things that you do. It's like, and either you're one or two types of person. You have something that you obviously were fixing to get rid of, and then the moment you realize it's worth something, you now have this like decision. It's like, well, I want to keep it if somebody else wants. It's like this weird, I don't want to let it go now that it's of value, but then I kind of want the value, and then it's like this weird sort of tug of war. Have y'all ever come across something you said, nope, not doing it, not putting it in the vendor shop, this is going home with the Palmers?
Oh my gosh, all the time. It's hilarious. It's almost a joke because it'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to keep this forever. I'm going to add this to my collection. And then 3 weeks later, it's in the booth. And I'm like, I thought you were going to keep that. No, okay, I found something else. I'm ready to move on.
I want to
let it go.
somebody else enjoy it, after I've had my fun.
You have bills to pay is what you're telling me.
Yes.
I know where that's coming from. Okay, so in your personal collection, what are some of the things that stand out for you guys?
I have an affinity for kind of mid-century glassware that has the 24-karat plating on it. I love Culver. That's kind of my niche. Amber glass. They just bring me a smile. So
we've got a custom couch we found in Missouri picking that was made in 1952, and I don't know how we even made it home with that. We were not prepared to buy a couch, but we did. And it didn't rain, so we got very lucky there. And then also a hibachi table with all the chairs. That's probably, how would you say that was?
God, I have no idea.
But it's in our living room, we love it. So our house is just totally, we have a mid-century home, and it's full of mid-century type stuff.
Pretty cool. Okay, if we want to make a trip to Tupelo or we're listening in that area and we want to come by, what are your store hours and then any fun events you guys have coming up for people to put on their calendar?
We are open 7 days a week. 362 days a year, so you can come to our shop Monday through Saturday 10 to 6 or 12 to 6 on Sundays. We are closed Easter, Thanksgiving, and Christmas.
Do y'all have any fun events to look forward to?
You know, we do the plein air markets when it warms up a little bit, where our vendors set up outside, and we've been known to have a musician sit out there and play some music here and there. We do a great Christmas open house, and then our big event we just had is our anniversary / birthday. We do it January 1st. It's the one day that we do require everyone to have some kind of sale. So every single booth has markdowns or percentage off, and it's by far our biggest day of the year.
We'll have a spring open house coming up. We just don't have dates set yet for it. So,
And you also mentioned to those who kind of like to flip that you may have some fun things coming up, potentially in the spring as well around that.
We have had a gentleman approach us about doing kind of our take on a flea market flip that we're really excited about putting into motion. So need to iron out some details, but looks like we'll be doing that this spring as well.
Well, there's a lot to keep up with. And if we want to keep up with you, you have a growing social media presence. You're like 10 or 11,000 strong, which means people are enjoying what you're doing. Well, where do we find you?
Facebook, Instagram, the famous website we didn't know about.
Relics Marketplace.
I was like, yep, relicsmarketplace.com. You can shop there, get T-shirts there. Yeah. There's all kinds of fun stuff there. Y'all should check it out.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much for making the trip down here. I hope you find something fun as you antique your way back to Tupelo. We look forward to keeping up with you guys, too.
Thank you so much, Rebecca.
All righty, you guys stick with us. We got a few more good things for you coming up.